All right, welcome to the John Lavenia Success Mastermind General Session. My name is Shannon Lavenia. I know you, I know everybody on here, but if you're watching the replay or you're catching this at another time, then we may not have met. So welcome. I'm Shannon Lavenia. John is obviously my husband, not brother or father or son or anything like that. And today I am your host. It's Thursday, April 14th. And today, what I really want to talk about is how to actually keep track of the things that are going on in your business. So you're not destabilized by surprises or things that you then have to, give a ton of emergency attention to. And in particular, the reason that I'm communicating with you today about this is because tomorrow here in the United States is, drum roll, anybody know?
Good Friday?
No.
Tax day.
Well, it is Good Friday
Oh,
too, but it's also tax day.
Yeah.
That's right. So Good Friday would be international, which is awesome. And for everybody who's going to be celebrating Easter, tomorrow is really a day of reflection and prayer and getting ready for that. And today is also that kind of holy do moment for a lot of business owners who have not put any time and effort into preparing their finances and their taxes. So what I really want to talk about is how do you keep track of everything that you need to do in your business so that it's actually getting done, right? Taxes are kind of a no play around zone. Like you really do have to make sure that you're keeping your finances in order and that you're getting them done. And what I have found in the thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs that I have personally trained or coached, that when it comes to finances, a lot of people like to become an ostrich. Do you know what I mean by that? Yeah, they like to stick their head in the sand, right? And not look at it. Particularly a lot of people who are starting up a business and are in that create mode where they're not really keeping track of their finances or their expenses until it gets too late. And they get to a point where they're like, oh my gosh, I spent this much money, right? Well, there's definitely ways to avoid that. And in order to do that, I'm gonna really talk about the 4 pillars of business. And I just got done doing a CEO Freedom Challenge. If you would like to see the recordings to that, you can go to the CEO Freedom Challenge group. And the recordings will be up through Sunday. And then we take everything down to prepare for the next challenge coming up on May 19th. So in business, there are 4 pillars. There's your product, right? So what you're going to deliver. There's your promotion, how you make that known. There's sales, how you get people to pay you for it. And there's delivery, which is how you get your product into the hands of others, right? Those are the 4 pillars. Well, underneath those 4 pillars is a foundation called organization and planning. And just like any house, you need to have a really strong foundation, right? Otherwise, you can't just put 4 sticks in the ground and hope that it's going to stay up in the next hurricane or tornado or windstorm or whatever. You have to have a really good foundation that's going to be balanced on. And in terms of organization and planning, what we're looking at are, some of the legal rudiments that are required in a business. So for example, is your business registered? Depending on what country you live in, that's going to be a little bit different. Or when should you have your business registered? And there's different schools of thought on that. I cannot give you advice on that because I'm not a licensed accountant or legal advisor when it comes to businesses. But I can tell you that it's really important that you do look into, is your business registered, right? As an LLC or a corporation or an S Corp, and what's going to make sense for you. And then how are you keeping track of your books? And your books don't have to be anything complicated. You could literally just do a spreadsheet with, 2 columns. One is income and one is expenses. And you're keeping track of what those expenses are, right? Amount and what it's for. And that in itself can be really simple, a simple way of keeping track of them. But when we don't spend time doing that, what happens is it starts to steamroll. Now I'm going to give you a really great example of that and just kind of walk you into my business. So our business has grown exponentially, and now we have multiple businesses, right? Multiple businesses, multiple products. And that adds a new level of complication to operations, right? To the operations of a business. So when I first started my business, all I had was an accountant. And I had an accountant that I would give my books to every January, not give my books to them on April 1st and think that they were somehow hell and high water, have an empty schedule the week taxes were due and we're going to get it done, right? Which is interesting because I've literally had other business owners contacting me in the last 10 days, asking me if I could give them an accountant referral that will help them get their taxes filed. And my response is no. One, I'm not going to put that kind of hell and high water on anybody that I know. And two, yes, if you're willing to file an extension, right? Then I can give you an accountant, but you're going to have to file the extension and then I'll give you the accountant's information because I'm not even giving that to an accountant, right? So when I started out, I just had an accountant and I kept my books in QuickBooks. Or not even QuickBooks, Quicken, like for everyday people. And a piece of apple stuck in my tooth there. Sorry about that. No manners. And then as my business started to grow, really when we got to about the 250,000 per year mark, or maybe even a $500,000 a year mark, that's when I brought in a bookkeeper and an accountant. Right. So I stopped keeping my own books and then I brought in an accountant. Well, the really important thing about my bookkeeping before I brought in a bookkeeper was that I had a time on my calendar each month to do my books. And I did it on the first, now you guys can pick whatever time you want. But I did it on the first Friday of the new month. So I would do the books for the previous month on the first Friday of the new month. And I blocked off that time from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. just to do my finances, my books, my bills, all of it. Right. And you're probably like, well, what do you do with your bills or whatever? Almost all my bills are on auto pay. And if they're not, they literally go into a big pile and I do them once a month. And most of my bills are set up that timeline is fine, right? They're almost all due in the later part of the month. So if I do them on the 15th of the month or the 16th or whatever, they're fine, right? So you want to set aside a time in your calendar to actually look at and confront your finances. This is really important. And what you'll find is that when you do that, you can address things like I'm spending too much here. I could really get rid of this expense. I shouldn't have this here. I shouldn't have that there, so forth and so on. So then we were operating with a bookkeeper and an accountant. And I literally just trusted the bookkeeper to keep the books. But what happened was, I realized that I wasn't really looking at the finances until it came to tax time. And I was like, holy crap, either we didn't have as much money left over as I thought we should have, or we were paying more in tax than I had anticipated. And there were all of these like sudden things that I really don't like those sudden surprises, right? I don't like, especially when it comes to money, because then it can be stressful. And no matter how much money you make, I will tell you, that you can get those surprises. Some people are like, oh, when I'm making, $100,000 a year, all my finances are going to be perfect. That's BS, because as you make more, you spend more. And if you're not confronting it, you will spend more than you make. It is just a human condition in anywhere. Even businesses, a business, if it doesn't have a really good CFO, will tend to spend more than it makes. Okay, it's easy to do. If you think about all the amazing things that we can spend money on, it's super easy to do. And people have all kinds of emotions around it where they beat themselves up. I can't believe I got into debt. I can't believe this. Let's just face it. Our world and our society is set up for you to spend lots of money and not to keep lots of money, right? So it's not really your fault that that occurs, except for the viewpoint that you're not looking at it, right? You're not looking at a point of responsibility on it. So then what we did was we hired, last year, we onboarded a new bookkeeper, and we onboarded a company that was supposed to work with us on doing Profit First. And Profit First is a book. You can read it, and it's really about paying yourself first and how to responsibly allocate money so that money goes into your pocket, right? And you're not leaking or hemorrhaging a lot of money. Well, I really liked the person who I had brought on board, but then the company that we worked with decided that they were going to focus only on one niche type of business that we weren't. The bookkeeper that I originally connected with that brought me to that company separated out. And I was like, okay, we can all work together. And then as the year kind of progressed, I realized that I was off purpose in what I had hired them for in the first place, right? I hired them to meet with me monthly, to go through our corporate budget, to show me where the money was going, where we could lean things out, where we could maybe invest things more. And that wasn't happening. That was not happening. What was happening was they were doing bookkeeping. They were billing me monthly. They were asking me a gazillion questions in spreadsheets. I felt like, what am I doing here? I don't want to do this. And at the end of the year in December, when I did go into QuickBooks, because I was like, okay, I really need to look at what's going on here, there were tons of errors. And those errors were from a lack of communication from them to me and me to them. So it wasn't all their fault. I just trusted that they were doing what they were doing. And they were assigning things. Like, I'll give you an example. I have a coach who works for me. She changed the name of her company mid-year. Then they started to assign it as a personal expense instead of a business expense, even though she's a coach. Now, where did that end up costing me? Once I figured it out in January, it was past the time to send out the 1099s. We had to reissue a 1099, which means we also have to pay a fine on that, right? Because now we're reissuing a 1099. And that creates alerts for the IRS and stuff like that you don't want to have. So I looked at that and I said, okay, enough is enough. I wrote a very lengthy email and I said, this is not working out. As much as I like you as a person, this is not what I wanted when I brought you guys on board in the first place. I really want a virtual CFO, somebody who sits down with me every month and says, Shannon, what the heck are you doing? Let's tighten up the ship. Let's make sure we're doing this. What are we paying this person for? Like all of that. And that's a really important part of expansion, because if you don't capture all the little things that are leaking out of your business in marketing and sales and everything, it can really steamroll into it. So let me tell you a couple of things that we found when we were looking at this. And these are things that you can find in your business at any level. So the first thing that we did was we went through all of the subscriptions that I have, right? And there's some tricky ones, and I'm going to give you guys some cost saving ones too. So we went through all the subscriptions I had. I subscribe to a guy named Peng Jun who is on video marketing. I use him for hatting on video so that I can then train others and we can apply it to our business, right? I was being double billed by him each month. Now that's a $97 charge. We caught 3 months of it. That's $300, right? So now mind you, I paid around $700 to onboard this new CFO, and it's going to cost me about $900 to $1,000 a month for her to work with me in this role, right? Part-time CFO. So that's $300. Then we were going through the subscriptions and everything. We had a subscription for Up Viral, which we used for marketing on a credit card. And we also had a subscription for it in our bank account. Now, I never would have caught that because it was all charges to the same company. But when I looked at it, I was like, why are there 2 charges a month? And we realized it was on 2 different cards. And we also realized that the reason for that was because I couldn't get a card to work in one account. So I just assumed that that account was dead. And I opened up a new account with the credit card. But then when they tried to rebill the other card, it worked. And now I had 2 cards, right? So that was 12 months at $79 a piece. Okay. Now I contacted them. I contacted Peng Ju's company. They refunded me the $300. And I did it super polite. I was like, look, this is somehow my mistake. I'm the jerk in this situation. I totally made a mistake and now it's costing you guys time, but I still would appreciate if you gave me the $300 back. And they were like, yeah, sure. No problem. I contacted Up Viral, and Up Viral was like, we're trying to figure this out, but we can't figure out how to give you or how to reverse a charge that's over 90 days old, right? And their merchant account doesn't let them do that. So I said, well, here's the deal. I've been using you guys for like 4 years. I'm not canceling. So why don't you just give me a free year? And they were like, oh, that's a brilliant idea. So they stopped charging my card. They gave me a free year. That's like, $900 right there, right? So far I've gotten $1,200 back. I subscribed to a girl named Whitney McQuaid. I pay $27 a month to be part of her Facebook group so I can advertise in it. And back in May, I contacted her and I said, hey, somehow this signed me up twice and I was double billed on the same day. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Let me refund you and we'll cancel it out. And then I never thought of it again. Well, turns out that they did refund me, but they never canceled the duplicate charge. So I had a duplicate charge for, 8 months. Now they use Stripe, so it was easy for them to refund those 8 months. So they refunded 8 months. So that's like another $240, right? Then I noticed that there was subscriptions that I pay for that amounted to about $140 a month that I don't even use. There are things that I've like subscribed to thinking I'm going to use this, but I haven't gotten around to using it, right? So has any of you guys subscribed for something like that where you're like, I'm going to sign up for this, I'm going to use it, but I'm not using it. I'm going to keep it. And one day I am going to use it. And then like 6 months go by and you still haven't used it and you're still paying for it, right? Like you have the best of intentions, but you're not doing it. So in that case, what I did was I just made a list of future tools I want to use. I canceled all those current subscriptions, but I made a list in a spreadsheet that will help me not forget about those tools, right? I do want to integrate them into my business at some point, but in my business, our protocol is I go through the app first, decide how we're going to use it, make the SOPs, then it goes to my team, right? So that takes time and I have to carve it out on my calendar. And even that we're working on getting off of my plate. So we found that. Then, interestingly enough, I found lots and lots of apps on my phone that were charging me like $1.99, $3.99, $4.99 that I had downloaded and subscribed to for social media that I wasn't using. Because now I have a whole team that does my social media, so I don't need any of these apps. And I discovered something really interesting. I'm going to share this with you guys here. So let me share my screen. And this is really for people using Apple, like an iPhone, iPad. If you're using Android, I'm sure they have something like this too. Well, with Apple, you can go to this URL. It's called reportaproblem.apple.com. Reportaproblem.apple.com. And trust me, it took us a while to figure out, where do you actually see all the charges that come through? Like all your subscriptions, where are they? Right? So you go there, you're going to log in. Give me a sec. I have this paused so that you're not seeing all my secret codes and stuff, and then I'll show you. Okay, so check this out. So I'm in Apple, and I can now see all the subscriptions that I have in here, right? And many of these I've now canceled. Like I canceled Insta Stories Pro. I can see all the invoices, and check it out. If I click on an invoice, it drops it down and it says manage subscription. Well, check this out. There's one in here. Let me show you this. Okay, so let's look at this Lyft Pro. I click manage subscriptions. It's going to open up iTunes Store. Let me stop sharing here so I can share my whole desktop. Okay, so it's going to open up iTunes Store. And if I click on any of these, check out what happens. I can see every pay plan that they have for that app. So I'm currently paying $32.99 for the app for 1 year. But before I changed it, I was paying $6.99 a month, right? Now here's one, 3 months for $6.99. If I look at that, let me see. So $6.99 times 4 is $27.96. So that's even cheaper, right? Now this is already renewed for a year to 2023, but I can go in and trust me, I have found apps that I was paying like $7 a week that I got for $19 a year, right? So you can go in and you can check this out. And you can also cancel the subscription. So we canceled hundreds of dollars worth of subscriptions, right? Here's one, Magic Eraser, Background Eraser. We have that for a year, year. Let's see if there's anything here that expires soon. Okay, so this one renews July 18th, 2022. So let's look at this. So I'm on the annual subscription for 1 year at $9.99. This is a really great one because see, they have a weekly subscription that's $4.99, right? So that's $20 a month, $240 a year versus a 1 year subscription for $9.99. So that's where things can leak out of your business if you're not keeping track of it. So in total, we found a couple $1,000 worth of leaking in my business, and we were able to find that and get rid of it, right? And then we started to look at things like utility bills and car insurance and other things that can be rather leaky in any business. But the point that I want to drive home here is that the only way that you would find that, now you don't need a virtual CFO if you're not at this level of business, right? But any business needs to have time on your calendar to handle finance. Every company has a treasury or finance department, every single one. The purpose of a business is to exchange a product for income. That's the simplicity of it, right? That is the purpose of a business, is to exchange a product for income. People like make this super complicated about, well, the purpose of my business is blah, 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 blah. The purpose of every business is to sell something and get money for it. Otherwise, you would be a 501c3 charity, you'd be a volunteer program, you would be bartering, right? There's like other programs where people, give stuff away and take stuff in exchange, right? In a business, you're giving a product, you're taking money. Well, in order to fulfill on that purpose and make sure that your income is greater than your outgo, right? Which is profit, right? To make sure you're a profitable company, you have to make sure that your income is greater than your outgo. Super important, right? Otherwise, you won't stay in business for long. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to invest money initially into your business, but you do need to have, you do need to have things that are in the works that you can sell and get income in, right? That's super important. Okay, so that's what I have for you guys today. I'm going to open this up for questions. Anything that you guys want to know, anything you want to ask me about this topic.
Shannon,
Yes.
was that the place where you were showing all the subscriptions? Was that only things you paid with Apple Card or on the Mac?
Those were app subscriptions, like actual app.
Yeah, 10 million,
Yeah.
and I don't even know.
Now, if you're paying with Apple Pay, one thing that is really important, and this bit us in the butt, because I do pretty much everything with my phone now, is Apple Pay only shows you your 10 most recent transactions. And if your bank, like my bank, does not transfer the data of where that charge went to, you'll have no record of what you bought unless you match up the receipts, which, trust me, I had to do. It was extremely painful, time-consuming, mind-numbing, and miserable. So you don't want to be in that situation. But because we caught that, now what I do, and I have it on my calendar, is, my CFO we meet every month to go over everything, but I stopped using Apple Pay through my bank account, and I started using it through a credit card. And the credit card that I'm using does track where that money went.
Thank you.
We're doing everything in my business now on a credit card, not out of my bank account. And there's lots of reasons for that. And I'll tell you, since I brought it up, I'll tell you. I'll tell you why we're doing that. One, I really want the points. Two, I've been in a situation where I bought something and the person didn't deliver, and it was really difficult to do a chargeback through my bank because it's a debit, not a credit card charge. Fortunately, I was able to negotiate with the person. Three, I really like to see all the money come into my bank account so that it's not like just coming in and leaving. And then the other reason we're doing it is so that it's a lower risk of fraud, right? The bank doesn't have the same fraud protections as the credit card companies do. So that definitely helped me out, especially if you have large chunks of cash in the bank. It's really important to do that, because if somebody got access to my bank information, or something like that, then through a charge or somehow, some way, I mean, I don't know, it will just be, it's better. And then the other thing is, if you are going to keep large sums of money, you should disperse it through multiple banks. So that's important too. Because then if something happens at one bank, you still have all your, you still have reserves in other banks. Okay, good. So other questions?
What do you do? Because Bob's the CFO. I mean, we're just starting this. We didn't, Bob's works in accounting and he does everything through Quicken. But sometimes there's a personal charge because I can't find the other cards. I'm just going to use the business card. And I've completely lost track of, I just have all these receipts, it's just going to be painful work, isn't it? I just got to face it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not the best at paying for things with my business card versus my personal card. I'll just like true confessions of, a person. I do my best at doing that. But if I use my business card for a personal expense, then I make sure that I just email my person at the end of the day, hey, this is a personal expense and here's what it's for. Where that gets like a little bit tricky, where they wouldn't know is, like we go to Lowe's a lot, Lowe's hardware store. And if we buy shelves, like we bought a storage unit for our business, that's a business expense. Then we bought, racks for our garage that were personal, right? That's a personal expense, right? So it's totally different. So we really try to keep track that way. Yeah. And now that we're going to be doing everything business on a credit card, we'll just pay with the credit card for business and then use our personal debit card for our personal expenses, which we use a credit union for, and we use a bank for our business, like a bank. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. That's a great question. And I will tell you, just to not make it like super heavy, I've been through 7 audits with the IRS, 7, and I've had a no change on all but one of them, which was the first one, which is why I fired my accountant and got a new accountant who's now gotten me through 6 audits with a no change. And I suck at keeping my personal and business expenses separate. And they honestly could care less as long as I could show them proof that I wasn't deducting personal expenses. So we use a company called Shoeboxed. There's many companies to do that. Nowadays, you can literally just take a picture of your receipt. But we fill an envelope, we send it to them, they scan in every receipt. So we had a record of every single receipt. And that within 45 minutes of taking our IRS auditor through that, he was like, I'm done with the audit. We're fine. I was like, I have like 4,000 receipts in here if you want to go through every one. And he was like, no, this is fine. I totally get it. So, and that's important because those thermal receipts do not retain the ink. So you have no valid proof once the ink comes off of that thermal receipt.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Any other? Hey, Mandy.
Shannon, oh, this is really interesting because I happen to have just done my own accounts. And I can so relate to what you're saying. I mean, obviously, I'm anywhere near the sort of money that you're getting, which is why I decided to do my own accounts. But just noticing things like still paying for helium-10 and things like that. Before, because I'm using money at the moment of my pension, it's not as bad. But before, when I was really sort of getting to the end of the month and didn't have enough money, you really focus on what you've got. But when you haven't, then it tends to just go past you.
That's right. When you're comfortable is the worst.
Yeah.
The worst.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
you don't pick up on it as much. And you can see the expenses that you're spending and how much on training, although training is worth having, and you've got to
Oh yeah, totally.
But the other thing about Amazon that I did pick up, because we have to get the printout, the annual printout from the system, is that we all know that it's paid in net. So anything that comes, and so it's trying to explain that to an accountant. So I did get a template from an e-commerce account, because it's paid in net. So you can't use the figure that goes into your bank account, because it might be they've taken it off you, or they're paying in, but they've already taken all the expenses off.
Right.
So it's recognizing that you have to then go back into Amazon and just take the ones that are the expenses and payment separately. But the advertising, that's when you really see how much advertising money you spend on advertising on Amazon, because it just seems to build up. And I haven't been very good at doing it as I go along, and I know that I need to. And now I've got the template, it's going to be much easier.
Yeah.
It was a real eye opener to me as well. I am on Android, so I just double checked, because I just happened to find it the other day when I was doing this. And if anybody's on Android and it goes through Google, then you go into Google on the internet, and then go into your account, and then there's a bit called payment and subscriptions. And if you go into there, it says my subscriptions, and then you can see the ones you've got. It doesn't seem to be giving us if you can pay on different terms, but it does tell you where it's come from. So a lot of these come up because you pay by PayPal. So sometimes you go in and it says PayPal. So, and it's not so easy to track it through that. So it then puts it into Google, and I found that quite helpful.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Yeah, I so relate to you. It's such a good idea.
That was my daughter. My daughter just came in with a wee. Okay, good. Yeah, tracking the Amazon, and these are the tricky things, right? Like Amazon gives you the net payout and you're like, oh, I made this much money and I had this many expenses. That's really good. But then you look at it and you're like, whoa, my gross was even like better, but there's all these advertising. So then I should get more efficient at the ads, right? And that will, the more you are efficient. And, one thing that I always keep kind of in my future is I have expensive goals. Quite frankly, like right now we bought this house. It needs landscaping, it needs a new kitchen. Maybe not a new kitchen, but like definitely a remodeled kitchen, and by the time I add it all up, I literally have about $150,000 worth of miscellaneous things that I want to create. And when you think about that, that's like after tax income, after living income, right? So part of what's going to help me get there faster is efficiency. And otherwise I'm leaking money out on stupid things. And that drives me nuts because I feel bad about it. Then I'm like, oh my gosh, that was $2,000 that if I hadn't switched my bookkeeper, I would not have found. Right. So it definitely was very valuable. Okay. Any other questions before we conclude? Thanks for your personal. I always share my personal stuff. So
This is a game changer, but you can schedule in your stuff, and there is room for fun.
Oh, look at you, girlfriend. Wait, let me get a snapshot of that. Wait, I got to get a screenshot.
Of the front.
Yeah, let me get a screenshot of that, and then let me get a screenshot of you having it open.
I'm a hot mess. I don't want to be on camera.
You're so funny. I love it. I love it.
But
yeah. Just schedule it in so that you have it in there. I love it. She's got her markers.
But it works. It does.
It really does, right? It gets you focused on what you're doing so that you're not just wandering around trying to decide what to do with your time.
Yes.
So that's awesome. I know Missy has one too. She's digging for it. I can tell. Yeah. Oh, Mandy's got one too. Wait, Mandy, I got to get a screenshot. Oh,
that's cool.
Oh, I love it.
Mine ain't filled in. My pens aren't even out, but I got it.
Oh, wait, Mandy, hold that back up. It won't be close enough to get anything personal. So I love it. Okay, I got it. Missy, I love it. It's great. Yours is going to be filled out. Don't worry. Like yours is going to be filled out. Yeah, that is definitely this in itself is the ultimate game changer when it comes to, having a plan and using time efficiently.
Well, I
It's
do love how
changing
you
my
said
life.
when
So
you can do the highlighters in different, for different things, family time, kids sports, or income producing activities. But see, that just blocks off that time. So then you do that, and then you go, and I just think it's great. And
Yeah.
Sunday afternoons, that's what I do.
I love it. I love it. Okay, I'm gonna run so that I can see my daughter here before I go on to my next call. You ladies are awesome. Definitely bring some friends to the mastermind too. And there's a ton of value here. One of the things that we're working on right now, which is a secret, so don't tell anybody, but we're taking all of the videos, the backlog videos, and we're putting them into a system where you can search by keyword based on the transcription of the video. So if you want like ads, finance, all of that archives is going to be very, very usable for everybody. So very excited for that. I know it's a big project, and we have Claire on it with one of my guys, Ramel, and they're working on it diligently. So, okay, guys, have a great day.
Thanks,
thank
Shannon.
you.